Hi, my name is Sam Lindsay.
I'm Maggie Hogard.
My name is Michael Stewart.
And my name is McKenna Gilson.
And this is the project we did for our Marketing 4600 class. It's a study on the company Glossier. Okay, I'm going to go into a brief explanation of our study on the company Glossier. The goal of this study was to increase the attractiveness of Glossier's products, especially when put up next to competitors. The reason why we chose this is because within the last couple months, the beauty company Glossier has decided to start moving into retail settings such as Ulta and Sephora, whereas in the past they were reliant upon online sales and sales within their flagship stores, which in these settings, their products are not put up against other competitors' products. They're only competing against themselves. So we wanted to see just how much they compare to the competitors' products. We decided to do a comparison. We showed our participants 3 products that achieved similar results, and we wanted to see if they would pick out Glossier's product between the 3 of them. To further enhance this study, we had them view one of Glossier's ads beforehand for a couple seconds, just to see if seeing a Glossier ad would impact how likely they were to choose a Glossier product. In order to see how long they looked at this ad and these products, we used eye tracking, which measures how long a user looks at an image within 1/10 of a second. And we'll go into more about eye tracking a little bit later. So before doing the eye tracking studies and even including participants, we did a literature review in our team. This literature review was to identify a little bit about the company and about what other eye tracking and studies have been done for Glossier or similar companies to see how we could do a similar study for them. Before participants participated in eye tracking, we had them do a pre-test, which was questions that gathered demographic information and about social media use. The reason why we included social media use is because that's where they would be seeing a Glossier ad. After the eye tracking test, participants did a post-test and a retrospective think aloud, where we had one of our researchers ask them questions while viewing their results of the eye tracking study. A couple indicators of success for this study we wanted to make sure we cover. We wanted to see Glossier's products rank higher than the other products shown, and we wanted to see Glossier being viewed more than the other products. So a couple key factors from our secondary research that we wanted to include is that the company of Glossier, we wanted to understand them a little bit more. We learned that they have a high social media influence and they're reliant upon minimalist packaging and sustainability. So it's a little bit different than other beauty brands out there, and to this point has kind of shown that that's one of the things that's special about them. So how they've achieved success in the past is through community engagement, both in person in their flagship stores and online. And they have a strong presence in a customer-centric market, meaning that they're reliant on what their customers think of them. They try to be personal to every person, and you can see that really in the flagship stores where they have people interact there, and you can see it also online and social media because a lot of their social media relies upon influencers and people like that to market their products. We also wanted to see what eye tracking tests have been conducted in the past, and one of the similar studies we were able to find is from Husik Medolik, which was conducted in 2017, and it showed, this wasn't for beauty products, but it was for products in a store to see how they lined up against each other, and they saw the main finding is that the packaging features really affect people's visual attention to the product. So we wanted to use something similar to that to our Glossier, for our Glossier study. Next up, we're going to have McKenna talk about our research questions and other things we will be having to contribute to this study.
The research questions that we wanted to answer are: how do potential customers perceive Glossier's packaging design, and what specific elements of packaging are particularly eye-catching? We are aiming to understand the way that customers view Glossier's unique product packaging and how it affects the ways that customers view Glossier as a whole. Does exposure to a Glossier advertisement before viewing products influence their attractiveness in comparison to similar products from competitors? With advertisements being so prominent on social media, we wanted to test the way that pre-exposure to an ad affects the attractiveness to the ad. The last research question is: to what extent is the product packaging and advertising effective in capturing and retaining customer attention? and what potential changes or improvements can be identified through this research, especially in the context of Glossier's expansion in more in-store retail settings where their products will compete with some of those other companies. Our hypothesis is exposure to a Glossier's advertisement before viewing products will significantly increase the perceived attractiveness of Glossier's packaging design compared to similar products from competitors. This effect will be indicated by a greater portion of participants expressing positive feedback on Glossier's packaging. Ranking Glossier's product higher in preference and showing increased visual attention towards specific elements of Glossier's packaging during eye tracking tests. Additionally, the feedback and data collected will provide insights into potential improvements in Glossier's product packaging and advertisement strategies, which can enhance its competitive advantage as it expands into in-store retail settings. Now I'm going to dive into eye tracking and explain a little bit more what it is. Eye tracking is a technology that involves monitoring the movement and gaze of a person's eyes. This technology enables the measurement and analysis of eye positions and eye movements. The eye tracker typically uses infrared light to illuminate the eyes and then captures the reflections of its light to determine the position of the eyes. By tracking the movement of eyes, researchers and practitioners can gain insights into visual attention, cognitive processes, and user behavior. It has applications in various fields, including psychology, neuroscience, human-computer interaction, marketing, and usability testing. Glossier has not yet used eye tracking methods, providing an opportunity to pioneer new research in this field and offer valuable insights for management seeking to differentiate their products while aligning with industry norms. Now I'm going to go through what we did during our study. So we had 4 participants during the study. Each subject was required to sign a consent form before any participation in the study, and then a pretest survey was given to each participant before the study started. Participants were then calibrated to the eye tracking. They each viewed different products and package comparisons. 3 packages were displayed on the screen in random order. Each comparison was shown for 6 seconds. Right before viewing the products, an advertisement from Glossier briefly showed. An analysis of the eye tracking data will then be performed, including heat maps, gaze plots, and areas of interest information. After each part of the study, participants were then asked a series of questions during the retrospective Think Aloud, aimed at answering the research questions. This questioning is performed while watching the replay of their viewing experience. The sample size was a limitation as we were limited to only 4 participants. With more participants, we would have reduced the sampling error and increased the confidence level. These are our pretest questions. We made sure to have questions that won't cause any kind of bias during the study. The first question is, what is your gender? The second is, how old are you? And the third is, how often do you use social media? We asked this last question because a lot of Glossier's current customer base is on social media. During our retrospective Think Aloud, here are a few of the questions that we asked. Have you heard of the brand before? Are you familiar with these products? What did you think of the ad as a whole? And what package did you like the best? And then during our post-test, we had various questions, and I'm just going to go ahead and read those. From your own personal knowledge, what is the product and what does it do? Please describe any specific elements or features of the product's packaging that caught your attention during the eye tracking test. What made these elements stand out to you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the attractiveness of Glossier's packaging design in comparison to the packaging of competitors' products? 1 being not attractive at all and 10 being extremely attractive. And then question 4 is, please name the brands you remember seeing. Question 5 is, based on your experience in the study, how effective do you think the product packaging and advertisement were in capturing and retaining your attention as a potential customers? Were there any aspects that you found particularly engaging or lacking? And then question 6 is, did viewing Glossier's advertisement before comparing products influence your perception of Glossier's products in terms of attractiveness and desirability? If so, please explain how. And our last question is, in the context of Glossier's expansion into more in-store retail settings, how do you think their products fare when viewed alongside those other companies? What, if any, changes or improvements can you suggest regarding Glossier's product packaging and advertising to help it stand out in such a competitive setting? Now we're going to dive into some of the findings that we had during the study.
All right, so let's jump into some of the findings of our research. Our findings were broken up into two different sections. So we started with the ad that we showed our participants, and then that was followed up by a list of products afterward. The products were broken up into two different sections, which we'll get to, but the first one is that we started out with our ad. So this is an ad that is run by Glossier. This is on their website, so if you were to go on and take a look, this is one of the first things that you would see. So these are all broken up into three different sections. We first have the heat map, second we have our typical gaze plot, and then third it will end on the areas of interest, and we'll go through all of those for both sections of the ads. So starting off with the heat map for the ad, we see that we have a pretty even spread across the board. So taking a look at our ad, we see that most of our participants spend a good amount of time in each quadrant of this ad. One of the really nice things that we were able to see is that our hotspots, or the part where people are looking at the most, which is indicated by a red circle, that is the heat map, that's where most people are looking, we see that our call to actions have most of these heat maps, which is good. That means most of the people are spending a lot of time on these call to actions before clicking on them or looking at them. So for example, the shop the spring collection or the shop the full collection, those are all on the heat map. So it's good to see, it's nice to see where people are looking. That does supplement into our typical gaze plot. So how the gaze plot works is this will see where the areas of fixation are on the ad, and then the size of the circle indicates how long someone was looking at that specific fixation point. So as we see, most people started at the top where they have the Glossier logo, and then they followed down to the two sub logos at the bottom, and then they went back up to the top to look at stuff again. As we see, those CTAs, those call to actions, are where most people are spending a lot of their fixations, as they are spending time to read and understand what they're looking at. And then they'll go back up to the top to get more supplemental information, as there's a toolbar up top with a lot of different navigation options, and then there's other toolbars at the side where people can then navigate to different parts of the website. So as we see with the indicated by the red circle, the majority of people are spending their time on the top half of the ad. That is where the majority of people are fixating. Following our gaze plot, we are jumping into our areas of interest for the ad, which basically takes all the information, the heat maps, and the areas of interest, the typical gaze plots from above, and is then putting them into graphical information so that we can understand them. Taking a look at some of the highlights, as we were able to see from the previous ads, if we take a look at the revisit count, most people are spending their time in this top 50% of the ad, and most people are returning back to this part of the ad, as that is where most of the information is located. Interesting enough, the fixation count is also in the top, as people are fixating on the logo and the sideways face. That is where people are spending most of their time as they are looking at the ad. Another interesting point, the time to first fixation is the nav bar. So people are first looking at the navigation bar and then dropping into the ad, and then dropping into the rest of the ad. And then the last point that I'll cover is the dwell time. So 52% of the dwell is stayed on that top section of the ad. So half of the time that people are looking at this ad, they are spending on the top half of this ad, which lets us know that that is where people are going, and that's where people are spending most of their time. So that is where most important information needs to be located. Finally, we're following up with the products. So as before mentioned, the products were set up. We had two different products that were shown randomly to each participant, as not to introduce bias with which one they saw first. So they were given a random selection of two in a random order to be able to reduce the amount of bias with the first look. So taking a look at the heat map, we see again that we have a pretty even distribution between both products, or excuse me, between all three products. Most of the fixation in the heat is based on those letters and numbers. So people are reading that first, they're trying to understand, opposed to looking at the package. We see a couple of stray heats over on the packaging itself, but most of those fixation points are on the actual letters and numbers that are on the products. Dropping down to our typical gaze plot, we see that the majority path for basically all users is to first look at the center product, and then either go to the left or the right, and then come back and revisit that center product again. So that is what we were trying to reduce with the randomization, is so we weren't getting bias in that way. But it's interesting to see again that people are fixating on those numbers and those letters, and they're really trying to understand what they're looking at. Someone that doesn't have a background in makeup might not understand what they're looking at, and they're trying to gain information by reading their packaging. And again, as mentioned before, those center products are where most of the fixations and most of the gazes are going to. Finally, taking a look at the area of interest again, which is breaking down that information into graphical data for us. We see that the revisit count for the Pillow Talk, which is this center product, is the highest, so people are coming back to that. That is where they're coming back to look after they've initially visited that first product. The fixation count is also something that's very interesting. We see that people are fixating on the Pillow Talk, potentially because it has more information. People are trying to understand more. They're fixating more on that. Again, the time to first focus, we see that it's focused over here on this bronze cap. That might be potentially drawing attention. People are interested in the different color packaging, but that's where people are first fixating. And then again, it's interesting to see the dwell time. So 35% of the dwell is focused on that Pillow Talk, that center product. For whatever reason, maybe it be the color, maybe it be the lettering, which we'll get into later, but that is where the majority of the focus is on. Following that, we'll jump into some of our pre and post test questions and some of the results we got from those.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, so as mentioned before, let's just delve into what we learned from the pre-test, RTA, and post-test questions. So yes, from the pre-test, we learned a couple key things. 3 of our participants were female and 1 was male. All 4 participants were in the age group of 19 to 25. 3 of them spent about 1 to 2 hours a day on social media, and only one spent 3+ hours on social media. And I mean, again, that question is key just because a lot of Glossier's consumers just spend a lot of time on social media. So make sure we get that base covered. Then we'll hop into the RTA verbatims. So again, the RTA, respect to think aloud, just some things that they said verbatim. One of them said, I looked at the Rare Beauty more because it's a brighter color. I feel more typically drawn to. Another one said they had heard of Rare Beauty, but never heard of the other 2, meaning Glossier and the other competitor. One said they liked the metal cap better, the design with the metal cap. One said they liked the packaging of Pillow Talk or Charlotte Tilbury better. This person said they don't like how Rare Beauty is simple, not a lot to look at. And then we had a couple other people said they like how Cloud Paint is bold and simple. So, doing a good job there. Now for the post-test verbatims, after they participated in the survey, we had them take a post-test, as mentioned before. This one was one right here that I thought was important. They didn't really know what the product was. They just said it's some kind of makeup for the face. One consumer did say that it is liquid blush, so they understood what it was. And then we asked again what they liked about it, and we had one person say they liked the gold lettering and variety of fonts and sizes, and then one say they liked Glossier because of the clean look and bold pink colors. Then on this question from the post-test, we asked on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the attractiveness of Glossier's packaging? 1 being not at all and 10 being extremely attractive. We had 2 people say in ranking they'd be a 6, one person say a 4, and then one person say 7. So on average, that's right around the middle. We're averaging like a 5.5. We like to crank those numbers up to be a little bit higher. Again, on another post-test verbatims, we had one person say that they think Glossier does stand out and have a good name in the market. Another one said they thought the packaging of Glossier was very simple. They don't see the logo on it compared to the others. However, because they are experienced, they know what Glossier is prior, so they don't think that it's necessary. But for new consumers, that might be different. Like for example, this guy, he said he's not entirely sure which of the 3 packages or products shown was Glossier. And then this lady, she said that it's a very simple, very clean company, and they like the bolder design because of that. And then we asked what of the 3 brands do you remember seeing, and 3 of them out of the 4 do remember seeing Glossier. One of them was to recall all of them, and only one of them was able to recall Glossier and Rare Beauty. One of them was confused and thought we just showed Rare Beauty. Now for these verbatims from the post-test, this is the question: did viewing the Glossier's advertisement before comparing the products influence your perception of Glossier's products in terms of attractiveness and desirability? If so, please explain how. And again, we thought that question was not necessary because we want your product to stand out on the shelves and be extremely attractive. We had one lady say that it had a slight effect. She knew what it was before, so she kind of knew a little bit about what they were doing. One person said yes and no because they were already familiar with the brand and it didn't really change their perception. One person said they did not, and then one person said they didn't think so, and they looked at Glossier the least. And then from this post-test question, we asked, based on your experience in the study, how effective do you believe the product packaging and advertising were in capturing and retaining your attention as a potential customer? Unfortunately, only 2 of them were able to answer this question. One person said that it is very important and is the first thing that someone recognizes with the product. Is that? And then the other one said, I liked the middle packaging the best because I looked at it the most, but now I can't remember what the name of that brand was. So he kind of misunderstood what the question was, but that kind of goes along with what we were mentioning earlier with that middle, that bias that we were trying to eliminate. So we aren't able to determine what packaging that was, but it just shows that none of the 3 packages necessarily stood out to him. Now this question was involved in the other question. It says, were there any aspects that you found particularly engaging or lacking? And this is where we found a lot of that key data. This person said the pleasing packaging was distracting while the others had less on it, so I remember the brand name better. So they liked the ones with less words on it. This person here said they liked the metal handle or lid, whatever that was, and the simple one-color packaging didn't have as many words. They liked how it was simple. And then this lady here has had experience with both Charlotte Tilbury and Rare Beauty, so she just said she liked both of those. She loves them all, but she was drawn to those because she has that experience. So yeah, so that kind of gave us some data. And then just to kind of show you on this graph, even though we were only able to have 4 participants in the study, 3 of them were female and 1 of them was male, and we feel that kind of represents who will be shopping and who will be scrolling through those social media ads and looking at Glossier ads and products. And then you can see here through this graph the appearance ranking and how we'd like to crank those numbers up. Just kind of what I mentioned before earlier. One person had said it was a 4, one person said it was a 7, and 2 people said it was about a 6. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now, and we would like to do whatever we can to fix that, get those numbers up. Some recommendations from us to get those numbers up is just implement a couple of different designs to the packaging, whether it's the color choice, more text, metal caps, all of them either. Again, you don't want to surround your packaging in text because we have had feedback that that's not what they want. But whether it's just more easily readable text, seeing as the Cloud Paint's package right now is written in a vertical way, it's a little bit harder to look at when you're looking at it on a shelf. And a lot of the consumers said they liked the metal caps because it added that little bit of a pop to look at. So there's one recommendation we can give to you. Another one is say clearly what the product is and not just the name Cloud Paint. Whereas you have the consumers who have their background in Glossier and those makeup companies, they know what Cloud Paint is and they know what this packaging is, just because of that recognition through it. But a lot of consumers who are the new consumers who will be buying that will be going through and they don't know what it is. So what we'd like to suggest for that is have some clarification of what it is they're looking at, like say what the product is, the liquid blush, clearly, and then put some brand recognition, not just the packaging, maybe put like a Glossier logo on that, easy to read. And then something memorable is our last recommendation, whether that's putting some sort of metal on that, making it pop, or some text with some sort of like font that draws the eye, something that when you look at it, it doesn't get lost. Like when you look at it, it doesn't look like it's just another product. You want it to be memorable. And that's kind of what we've noticed throughout these studies. People are remembering more of the Charlotte Tilbury and Rare Beauty just because they have those metal caps and more text to look at. So yeah, those are our recommendations, we recommend putting it both in your ads and products just to have that be cohesive and concise. So yeah.
Thanks for watching our presentation on Glossier. If you need any of the supplemental information that contributed to this study, feel free to check it out in our PowerPoint. Thank you so much for watching.